in, say hi. If you've never come into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And oh my goodness, I have been a little bit of a recluse this week and staying by myself. I do keep in touch with my sisters, but getting out there and being social, I really haven't been doing too much of it this week. I have basically been on my own, looking towards what this year has in store for me. I'm trying to take care of myself in little ways in my life, the way I'm taking my vitamins, the way that I'm eating. I'm really trying to cut down on the sugar, and I was doing so good until today. Well, I'm not going to say till today. Until I get that, oh my goodness, I need something, or I'm going to just like strangle somebody. And then I run off to the store to get myself a treat. And that's what I did tonight. I was doing so good. And then, I said, oh, Cindy, get outside, get some fresh air. You haven't been outside today. And I thought, oh, I don't want to go for a long walk, even though I promised myself that I would. And I walked to the grocery store and I got blueberry turnovers. Yes, so I ate blueberry turnovers. I'm not happy, especially when they have those big pieces of sugar. What do you call them? Crystal sugar on top of them. That's not good for you. And especially when I'm trying not just to cut back the sugar, but cut back all my treats, right? Kathy's here first tonight. Hi, Kathy. It has been a week. I don't know how your week has been going on, but I say that I had that word community 3 times, I think, this past week. The last one, just totally because we were on the topic of community the whole night. And then right at the end, I says, okay, let's pull a card because I've been yapping for an hour and a half. And of course, I pulled the word community. I'm running out of ways to come at that word. Tammy was with me that night when I pulled that word community. Was that yesterday, Tammy? No, that was Friday night. Friday night we pulled it again, eh? It's pretty it's pretty incredible when I do that. Oh, Owen popped into. Let me get these notifications out of the way. Yeah, Friday night. It was so funny. Like every time it happens, I just have to shake my head and just giggle a little bit because I know there's a message in that for me, you know. And maybe, I was looking at it in a different perspective on Friday night. I thought I just can't come up with any more ideas. If that word comes up, I have no idea how I'm going to come at it. So I took that word community and I pulled out my photograph paper that I've been using because it's nice and thick and it's glossy, and I've been using those for those words. I made the word up again. I made a brand new card. Then I took out my paper cutter. I measured it specifically, like absolutely perfect, and I cut me a new card. And I don't know. I don't know if that will do the trick. It'd be pretty, well, I don't know if I can say it'd be pretty amazing, if I don't pull that card for a while, because it's important that if the card is needing to be coming to the surface, that it comes to the surface. And when I shut my live down on Friday night, I thought, how would I ever come at that word again? And then I thought, community. We haven't touched on religion in this word community. I thought I was good to go being, you know, um, just non denominational. It's not that I don't believe that there is something out there, someone out there that is kind of moving things, shuffling things around, and is doing a real job this week. But but uh, but I didn't think that it was necessary because I wasn't really um, wholeheartedly attaching myself to any one denomination, and yet I find those gifts in all different denominations, right? Not just denominations in Christianity, but Buddhism. I follow, I don't know if anybody out there follows Rabbi Jacobson. He is, he's pretty well known out there in thought leadership, but he always seems to touch me somewheres, when he speaks. And I know that there's Jewish aspects in my family because it was said that my grandfather on my dad's side was Jewish. He wasn't practicing Jewish, but he did have some Jewish aspects about himself. And I really don't delve in deep into my family history. I find it interesting. My nephew, Adrian, he knows all about it. And then one day he was going to sit down and we get into these deep conversations, me and him, when we hang out together. But he was going to tell me something that was kind of on the negative aspect that would kind of reflect badly on my dad's side. So I shut him down. So now every time I ask him about it, he sidewinds, right? He kind of shuffles a little bit and he changes the subject. And I haven't gotten anything. So if I do want to find out, I'm going to probably have to do it all on my own. And he's got all the papers and everything. So yeah, it's just gonna have to be a waiting game until he figures that I'm ready enough, strong enough, right? That I'm not gonna take his head off when he tells me something. Because if he tells me something, he's practicing in what he's practicing, and he follows those values, right? He might avoid telling the truth, but if you corner him, right, and you make him give you an answer, he will have to, right, be truthful in that because he doesn't have it in him to be sneakity that way anymore. It's kind of like what's going on with me. I try to work with good values, understanding that, I don't want to be prudish in them because I want to be able to be relevant to everybody. So I have to have some sense of tolerance in myself and in my limiting beliefs and those additions like the blueberry turnovers that I had today that make me feel bad. But understand there has to be a little bit of tolerance for that. Understanding I am only human, and in keeping down the sugars and everything, all that bacteria, all they're doing all day long is screaming at me, ice cream, cookies, blueberry turnovers. And I thought it was going to be good when I went into the store, but I shouldn't be walking through the bakery. There is nothing in the bakery that I can touch. And if I just avoided the bakery altogether, I could probably avoid the rest of it, right? But that bakery, the way they decorate their cakes and the cupcakes and the cookies and stuff, it's all enticing, but that's what it's meant to do, right? Hello, everybody. Hello. Yeah, so I'm going to try harder to stay out of the bakery section, and I'm going to, right, shut those bad bacterias down when I'm starving them to get death, and they know that if they bug me enough that I will break down. And there have been many times in my life that I've totally eliminated. I remember that I just lived on protein for a year one time. And I've done that a couple of times. And, and I've been able to maintain a healthy body in that. But, I'm getting older, and as I'm getting older, I want to be older, right? So I've been really overdoing it, I think, in the probiotics. I got a high probiotic that I take when I go to bed. I have to because it's very acidic, and I have wicked heartburn from those probiotics. But then I have a smaller dosage of probiotics, and then I take that one in the morning, right? And I think I probably just take a little bit too much. So I'm going to start easing off on the probiotics. And I was doing, you guys know, hear me. I got my applesauce and I got my apple juice. Well, the juices aren't good because they're full of sugars, right? And even though they promote good bacteria, they do, right? They do have a lot of sugar in them. So it's just about experimenting. And I love experimenting. And I've got a couple of drawers of vitamins that I can just switch up the formulas of what I want to take. I haven't been taking enough vitamin C's. And I know vitamin C's are really good at keeping you in a balance, out in a pH balance. That's what it is, in a pH balance. But yeah, I hope everybody is doing good. You don't want to hear about my screaming bacterias or me running off to the bakery for blueberry turnovers. They were delicious, by the way. You see, I had numerous ones. But yeah, how's everybody's weekend been going so far, you guys? It has been so mild and so beautiful. If the weather keeps up like this, I would say within the week, most of the snow is going to be gone, which is going to be really, really early. And actually, let me take a look at my temperatures for the week, because there were a few days that were going to be in the pluses. Yeah, so it's going to be fairly warm for the next few days. Anyway, we all know that the weather changes on a dime, right? So it might get even warmer, but we're supposed to have hit 2 degrees today. Now, I didn't keep track of the weather today because I just enjoyed looking at it out of the window and seeing the snow piles come down a little bit and seeing everybody slip and slide a little bit on the sidewalk. So I hope everybody was safe that way. I didn't find them to be too bad. But then again, I have my keen winter boots that work as gum boots too. And they do me right through till May. And I just walk in the puddles, right? And I leave the dry spots because everybody's trying to avoid the puddles. And I'm just motoring right through. But I'm being careful because, nobody likes to be splattered by a car and me going through a big puddle, right? That's like a car driving by you, and I wouldn't want to splatter anybody in that. But oh my goodness, and they're kind of attributing it to Amino, right? Amino, is that how you say it? It's changing, and it's going to bring some record warmth really, really early all across the northern hemisphere too. So it's just not going to be here in Manitoba, but all of Canada, Great Britain, right? Spain, Portugal. Well, they're usually fairly nice anyway, but yeah, it's going to get warm all over the place. So it's going to be interesting to see how the weather is going to be this year, right? Okay, let me see. Who's here tonight? We got Kathy. Kathy was in first tonight. That was pretty awesome. And Owen's here and Tammy is here. So nice to everybody. Uh-oh, where's Andrew? makes me nervous when I don't see Andrew. I worry, quite a bit about that man. I know he moves a little bit faster than he should, and lots of us do in order to keep a roof over. I shouldn't include myself in that, but I've been working hard too in listing jewelry and everything. And yeah, I've got a couple of watchers on my $1,000 bonsai tree garden pot. If you guys haven't seen that, you could just go into my Facebook marketplace and you can go see everything that I'm selling there, and you can find the garden pot. I'm in no rush to sell it because it's all going to go towards my trip. And yeah, super super grateful. And these are the things that keep me busy and keep me happy and optimistic, because this weather right now, even though it is melting, it's still dark, it's still dreary, right? It's not bright and sunny this week. The clouds are full of well, the sky's full of clouds, right? So it is still kind of gloomy out there, and that can wear on people's um emotional well-being, right? And it's important for us to keep ourselves cheery. And me doing a little bit of experimenting and trying new things, and I'm listing and I'm keeping myself busy, and I'm planning my trip. That's what I was doing for the past couple of days. Just when you feel like you're not accomplishing and feeling guilty because I'm not getting outside, that it's important for me to delve into things that will make me happy and optimistic, and planning my trip that makes me happy, right? 8 provincial parks this year is what the plan is. I'm believing I'm going to get down as far as Sudbury, Ontario this year. And it's going to be an amazing trip, right? I'll wave to Tammy across the I'll send her a message. I'm waving at you across Lake Superior because she lives on the other end in Michigan from where I'm going to be. And it's going to be really really fun, you guys. But today, yeah, it was kind of a slow day for me, and I was looking forward to coming into my live tonight, but I didn't do anything this week except, just stay online a little bit, come in for my lives, work on my trip, talk to my sisters a little bit, make sure that I have my youngest sister. I actually haven't talked to her in a couple of weeks, so I'll probably connect with my sister Carolyn tomorrow just to say hi and see how she's doing. She's probably not doing so well because her and my sister have teamed up as partners, and they like to go off gambling every once in a while, lots of quite often, right? And my sister, until she's got her eyesight back to a state where she can get her driver's license back, right? She's kind of cooped up. I'm going to go over on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to make her a corn chowder, right? I'll make her a corn chowder. I made her a lazy halapchi, which is like cabbage rolls, but it's just kind of all lazy where everything's chopped up and it's just kind of simmered in a great big crock pot. And I made her one of those. It's sitting in the freezer, but I think what I'll do is I'll pull it out, thaw it out, get them all into containers, make the soup, and then I'll give her a visit, right? And then she can have her lazy halapchi, and then she can have her corn chowder. She loves corn chowder. I don't know about you guys what your kind of favorite soup is. I bought shredded cabbage and vegetables today because I'm really craving homemade soup. I bought a little roast and stuff, so I was thinking maybe I can make a vegetable soup or I can make a beef barley soup or something. I'm just really craving homemade soup, a brothy soup, eh? Not the creamy ones, right? I'm trying to keep my bacteria good, right? You have to use a roux when you make those cream soups. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay, you guys. Well, other than that word community coming up numerous times last week, and then Tammy had the word happiness come through her path or come by her path lots of times last week. It's really interesting, you know, in how things have been, what you think about is realized. And I think that's what happened on Friday night, because during my whole live show on Friday, we talked about community. I just came into it and just started talking about community. And then after talking about it for over an hour on Friday night, I just said, well, I hope we don't pick that word community tonight. And I shuffled my cards. I didn't even turn my head. I didn't even want to see what card I pulled. And sure enough, I pulled that word community. Yeah. It kind of freaks me out now because it happens so often. Did Andrew come in? Oh, Andrew made it in. Oh, see, you made me nervous there, Andrew. You made me nervous there that you weren't in yet. I hope you didn't rush to come in or anything, you guys. Like, take your time, Andrew. If you didn't show up tonight, I would have just sent you a quick email just to say hi, just to check in on you. But don't ever, any of you guys ever feel that you're obligated to pop in and hang out with me, right? In my consistency, I show up. I may show up a few minutes earlier, a few minutes late, usually the latter, but I always show up, and that's in my consistency. And I do that for myself, but I do that for you guys too, because, we're kind of a community. We're kind of a crew now. We've kind of built in that routine of showing up on Sundays. But life kicks us in the butt sometimes. Maybe you want to go out on a date, maybe you want to go out for dinner, maybe there's a festival going on. Like, don't ever think that you guys have to show up here, because right, that's my consistency. But I do appreciate that you guys show up. If you guys didn't notice, Tammy got her rent. She's been showing up in my Monday to Fridays. I know those live shows are pretty heavy. And I really appreciate that Tammy's been into all of my comments. She's been into my live shows going back 6 or 7 years. She's been in my very first Urban Explorers. She's been watching those. She comes in for my lives she's been here almost every single day. And I don't have any moderators that consistently show up in What's My Good Chair. It's not like I really have anything to really moderate in the moment. But it catches my attention when I see those wrenches, right? And if I should ever blow up, I'm prepared, aren't I? I am prepared. I'm definitely prepared. And I'm definitely grateful for every single one of you guys, for sure, right? There have been times when you've had to zap somebody, right? Like shut them down, or I don't know if you've had to block them or send them on their way, but I know that you guys have, shut comments down and stuff. And it's really nice that every once in a while we pick up somebody new, and they just happen to find their place within our crew, right? I think it's absolutely amazing that, that nobody is being, held by gunpoint. Nobody is right being made to show up here, that they just like to show up here. And I think that's pretty amazing. I think that's actually quite beautiful. Catching up on warming and melting here. Oh, it's melting there too in Bloomington, Indiana. What a relief. Warmer, but I got a crew out at the barber shop, and my head. Oh, you got a crew cut at the barber shop, and my head is cold. I like crew cuts on, guys, in all honesty. Uh, my husband always had. He liked the crew cuts too, but lots of times he would just do the round shave, and then he'd have a little, they called them flat cuts, right? They were like crew cuts, but then it would be like a little a flat top on top. And I always thought it looked really good on him. But yeah, the crew cuts, I appreciate a crew cut. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit early in the season, right? In the winter time, that's when everybody seems to like to grow their hair just to keep their head warm. I hope you have a toque or something for the rest of spring, Andrew. Where the elite meet. Oh, that's beautiful, Andrew. I like that. I like that. Um, Yeah, like I said, oh, Eugene's here too. Like I said, the weather has been absolutely amazing. I haven't put all my heavy gear. I kept my coats, and I kept my snow pants up, because it just because you have a couple of days of nice weather, it doesn't mean it's going to stick that way. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of snowstorms still. I mean, it's really, really early for it to be melting already. So I suspect that it's not going to stay, that it is going to get cold again. And right, there's always a storm shooting out. What we're working on or struggling with right now here in Winnipeg, I don't know if it's the same, Andrew, where you are, but we're struggling with fog. And a few times this week, I couldn't, I got up this morning and it was just white. It was kind of spooky. I looked out the window, I couldn't even see across the street. Everything was just white from the fog, right? It's all the moisture in the air. And that's not really good for the bones, too. So when you're in a little bit of a span where everything seems to be topsy turvy, to add on aching bones and aching muscles because of the weather. And then not only that, the icy sidewalks, because even though it's melting, it still freezes overnight. And there are a lot of vulnerable, a lot of seniors that have walkers and wheelchairs in this building, and walking sticks, that you want to be very, very careful when you go out, right? And especially when you're walking, those sidewalks are really bad, really bad. Yeah. Okay, I am watching Train Built 47 YouTube. I'm going back watching the channel. I just wanted to say hello to you today. Oh, thank you, Eugene. That's really nice of you. Andrew says, I'm surprised we haven't had any fog here. No fog. Wow, that's curious, because you guys had a pretty good snowstorm going on too, right? But yeah, the fog's been really bad. They actually had to close the highways a couple of times because of the fog. You couldn't even, I like I said, I woke up this morning, I could hardly see across my own street, that it was so foggy. Snow on the ground, but no fog in the morning. It was so fog. Oh, you had fog too then. It was hard driving too. I took my time driving safely. Definitely, Tammy, you have to drive safely. And the visibility very bad. Yeah, here in Manitoba, they don't hesitate. If the roads aren't safe to drive on, they have no problem shutting it down. Actually, it was last year or the year before. I was coming home from my trip on the Trans Canada Highway, and there was an accident there's only two ways to get to Manitoba. There are two roads, but at one point they split, so you can take a southerny kind of route, or you can go a little bit northern on the Trans Canada. And right at that intersection there was a big pile up, and it was in September. The weather was really nice, but there was some kind of truck accident and the cars started crashing and stuff. And they shut that road, the Trans Canada Highway. Oh my goodness. There were semi vans going all the way back to Thunder Bay. I actually turned around. Well, the first night I slept in a truck stop, not a truck stop, like a rest stop. You're not supposed to camp in the rest stop, but I didn't care. I pitched my tent, and I was in the campsite. And because I always rent those luxury vehicles, that whole campsite, everybody who had to turn around because they weren't going to just stay in a line in the highway and then waste gas, because you have to start your car every 20 minutes to move up a couple of feet because somebody's turning around doing a U-turn to go back to Thunder Bay, or like I said, to one of these rest stops. That I was the first one to set up camp, and I had myself a little bit of dinner, and I pulled out my stove and had a nice dinner. And by the time I finished dinner and was getting ready for bed, oh, I didn't have a tent. I was sleeping in my truck. I rented a Jeep that time, and everybody was pitching tents. Like the whole rest stop was just covered in tents, and on the norm you would get a fine for that, right? You'd have to pack up and leave because those rest stops are actually monitored, but they just kind of let everybody do it because it was kind of a bad situation closing down the Trans Canada, right? If it had happened anywhere else, it would have been okay, right? But because it happened right at the split, right, of the two highways, that both of the highways got shut down. And yeah, I remember the next day I went back into line and went, oh my goodness, another night. And I turned around and I went back to Thunder Bay. I drove all the way back to Thunder Bay. I wasted a lot of gas that 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 trip. But I went all the way back to Thunder Bay, and they had shut down McDonald's and Tim Hortons and right all these restaurants and stuff because people were bringing their semis right back into the city and just parking in the Walmart parking lots, and even tents were being pitched everywhere. It was a total mess. I have to assume they're going to be looking at other solutions because in the news and everything, they were saying the same thing happened the year before. But I didn't know if I was even going to get home on time. I had to return my truck, and right, I had rented it, luxury. What was it? It was a Jeep Rubicon. It was so nice. It was so nice to drive, but it wasn't very comfy to sleep in because the back end was too short. I had to bend my legs in order to sleep. I usually bend my legs anyway, but just knowing that I couldn't kind of irritated me. And it was my dream vehicle, right? I was manifesting the Jeep Rubicon. Now I've been manifesting the Jeep Wagoneer. I like the Wagoneer. I like the Yukon too. And there's one that starts with an E that I really like. I can't remember what it is, but it's really, 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 really nice. But yeah, me and my sister were talking, and she's all cooped up. She doesn't have a vehicle at all. I feel kind of bad for her because she can't get out and about at all. I said she could phone me, right? I keep offering, to come over, but for whatever reason, she wants to stay on her own, but she makes it sound like she's bored and she's agitated because she can't get out and about. But when I say, "Oh, come right over," or she's still got the car, it's still insured. Like I could take her grocery shopping, I could take her to her appointments, right? I can come and give her a little bit of a house clean, right? Because she still is recuperating, and maybe that was God's way of saying, you're out too much. Like you need to rest. You need to get better. Don't forget, you just had a triple heart bypass, right? And that was only a few months ago, you guys, that she had that operation. And now she's agitated because she can't get out and about. And with all the icy sidewalks and parking lots, and she has broken her hip in the past couple of years. So, it's good for her. I think that she's kind of confined to her apartment, at least for the time being, until everything really truly does clear up. And it's only a month away at the very, very most, right? It might be still a chill in the air, but it'll be enough that the won't be snow on the ground, right? Okay, let me come in here. Um, It was so foggy this morning. It was hard driving too. I took my time driving safely. Oh, okay. I caught that one all already. Oh my goodness. Equinox? No. I kind of when I've been looking at vehicles, Tammy, um, on marketplace and in used ones and stuff, there are a lot of Chevy Equinox for sale. And it makes me wonder, why is everybody selling, right? Their newer Chevys. What's wrong with Chevy that, people feel that they need to get rid of them? So, yeah, the Equinox is really quite off my list for sure. I'm not even looking at them. Been kind of looking at the journeys because you can still get safety ones fairly inexpensive and with lower mileage on them. Um, I have also been looking at the Dodge Nitro, but they stopped making them in 2011. And right, they're not really reliable vehicles anymore. They're just kind of really old. And you don't want to buy a vehicle we're going to have to keep putting repairs into them stuff, right? I'm not going to be able to afford a Jeep Rubicon or any of those fancy cars, the Yukon. I can't afford those, right? It's not to say I'll never be able to afford them, but when I'm back on the road, it's possible that in this process of saving money and putting some money away from my income tax return, that maybe I could put a few $1,000s away, and instead of renting a vehicle, I can buy a vehicle. And I think that would be the best option for me if I can do that. And so that's what I'm kind of looking at. So again, in that idea of staying busy and keep looking at moving forward and bettering my life, I am looking at used vehicles, right? I'm not in a position in the moment, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way for forever. And I suspect, I'm going to end up having to spend $1,500 at the very least to rent a vehicle if I'm going away for 3 weeks. Well, what if I could put $3,000 away, right? I could get something reliable. It might not be an SUV, but it would be probably a good vehicle. And maybe if I'm keeping my eyes open, I can find a nice estate vehicle, where somebody was just driving it to the grocery store once a week or something, or once every couple of weeks, and it's got no mileage on it, and it was sitting in their garage and it's in good shape. And those vehicles, I come across them all the time. Good scores. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if I had $3,000, I'd be going to get that safety vehicle right away. I don't know where you guys live, but here in Manitoba, you have to get your car safety before you can get it insured. Unless it's a newer vehicle and that person has a recent safety on it, like 6 month safety or 8 month safety, you have to get it re-safetied. And they get you for anything, like a little bit of rust around the tire well. They'll anything, any little thing, right? A chip in your windshield, and then you need to replace the whole windshield. So my best option again is, well, my best option is a new car, but my second best option is to get something that's already safetied, right? So I don't have to worry about those immediate repairs right away. But that doesn't mean those repairs aren't going to be happening, right? Because it could be safety today and then have an issue tomorrow, right? So I've been paying attention. If the right opportunity arises, right, I'm going to do my very best to own my own vehicle. So at the very least, right, when I come back, I have that vehicle and it will help me out so much in getting out and about and finding more bonsai garden pots to sell for $1,000. It's really funny, I've been doing vintage jewelry is what I'm selling online, and a ton of it. I have over 60 listings now. Almost all of it is vintage jewelry. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And some of that vintage jewelry is more expensive than, say, gold and silver jewelry, right? I found a single pendant. My sister paid $2.99 for it, right? And they sell for over $500. I put it up for sale. I only put it up for $250. I didn't know how it would do. I got like 12 watchers on this pendant. And it's an interesting pendant too, because it's actually sold in renowned auction houses in France, right? I think that piece was from France. No, Switzerland. Yeah, it's from Switzerland. It's a Scandinavian piece. Somebody who did modernist and brutalist, and that's like the Cold War era. They only did that kind of jewelry for a very short time in the early 60s and up to the early 70s. But yeah, it's worth a lot of money. I was so excited to find it. And then, like, when my sister gives me the jewelry, her job is to put it in a sandwich bag, whatever lot, because sometimes it's a whole bunch of jewelry, right? And I want to know what she paid for it and then the minimum of what she wants for it, right? And she wrote $20 is what she wanted on it, and $2.99 for what she paid on it, because I get like 20% of whatever I sell, and but I deduct whatever it cost her because she paid for it upfront, right? So for $17, and I put it up for $250, that's like $50, right? To go in my kitty. And you got to remember, like, most of the things that I put up are at least 75 or $100, like really, really nice things. Yeah, if you guys are interested, you should go and take a look at my all that jewelry that I'm listed. Is pretty spectacular. But at the same time, I'm getting these I think they're silly questions, but I'm answering them and I'm being pleasant at it and stuff, but I write in it that it's costume jewelry, that it's signed jewelry, but I'm not saying it's gold or silver or anything. And they asked me, "Oh, can you look to see if it's 925 or sterling?" I said, it wouldn't be this price, dear, if it was sterling or if it was gold or anything. I took good pictures of anything that's marked, anything that is signed, and but I still get some of these silly questions, right? Will you deliver? And then I'll say, sorry, I don't drive. And just say, well, can you take a bus? I said, where do you live? "Oh, I live in Argyle. Well, like I need a car. You don't have bus service in another town or another city in the province. No, sorry. Right? But I am pleasant and I'm laughing. I'm laughing about it. And it is in that customer service and in practicing my craft, right? And when I'm busy listing other things and then you're interrupted with all these inquiries, because right now when I just checked the weather, I could see that there was a few more inquiries and they get to wait until after my live show, right? And I'm just going to turn my volume down here because I know, right, it's going to go off and somebody's going to be asking about something and it'll take my attention away. But I've been having lots of fun, and it's a good way for me to appreciate that I'm moving towards my dreams. I'm moving towards the things that I love. I'm moving towards the things that I love doing. And even though I like, right, reselling, it makes it so that I could be my own boss, right, in that. And it's not an investment for me because I'm selling other people's stuff. I'm selling my stuff too, but I'm not getting it as much as my sister is, right? It's just every once in a while when I go to a thrift store. But then when I go to the thrift store, instead of spending on that money on something that I could sell, right? I'm buying, oh my goodness, I found a pair of Keen shoes. Which I did. I found a $200 pair of brand new Keen shoes a couple of weeks ago. I'm still in shock over that. They were brand new and I got them for $8. It just blew my mind. So now I have 5 pairs of Keen shoes. And today, even, right, I was doing some research on some new um, um, Keen shoes, right? Because even though those are a pair of Keen shoes, they're not hikers, right? And so I want to get a nice pair of hikers, maybe something that will go around the ankle because they are going to be used in actual hiking. And if I trip over something or anything, like I don't want to, right, bust my ankle up or something. And at least if I do hurt my ankle, the boot around my ankle will kind of give it a little bit of support with a couple of tree sticks on each side. Spring is getting to me, you guys. Like I'm feeling it. Getting up, and the first thing I saw was that fog, and then sitting here and doing listing today and listening, but doing the listing today and working on the camping and working on the research for my hikers because I would like to have a pair of Keen hikers. If I get a pair of Keen hikers, they're going to be $200. So I'm contemplating, right, if I can budget the glasses and the house bills, and because I want to put $1,000 away, right, for my trip in September. But I need my glasses. The glasses are my priority. But I knew I could do my glasses, pay my house bills off, and possibly get my contact lens exam, right? Because you have to have a different exam for the contact lenses, and that's about $100, right? But now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I should just, right? Because $200 right up at the time, close to the time that I'm going on my trip, that's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna want to part with $200, but it doesn't seem like such a hurt, when you do it when you have a little bit of chunk going on of cash, right? And that's a couple of weeks away, you guys, right? And I'll be on my glasses. I'll be so happy for that. And I think I've learned my lesson, right? My prescription is too expensive to be doing glasses every single year. So I think I've truly learned my lesson, and I'll be a lot more careful, right? And caring when it comes to my eyewear moving forward. I was kind of hoping this might be my last pair in my life. I don't know what I was thinking about, my prescription has not changed in over a decade, so my eyes have stabilized. I wish I had gotten into glasses a lot earlier than I did, but I wasn't as attentive to my well-being. you know that's one thing that um my upbringing did to me. I really didn't care for myself too much. Like, not saying I didn't care for myself. Of course, we care for ourselves, but not care for ourselves, right? Like, Cindy, you can't have those blueberry turnovers, or Cindy, cut back on out on the sugar. Cindy, right? Invest an extra dollar and buy good face soap instead of using, fragrance soap that, you get acne. And that was something I learned in my 50s. I had acne right until I was, I think, 55 or 60, 56 years old, somewhere around there. And then I learned about good quality soap, and yeah, and it makes a difference, and it makes you realize that you really do get what you pay for. So if I really want something, and like my Keen shoes, even though I've got 5 pairs, I don't have hikers, right? I don't have hikers. I have 2 pairs of sandals. I have 1 pair of casual shoes, and I have 2 pairs of the Avalanche winter boots, right? And they're both working perfectly fine, those boots. I really didn't need the second Avalanche, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford them, and I just put it on my Christmas list because in my retirement, again, it's something that's a little bit pricier, and you think a little bit about the future that way. But I also realize what you think about is realize. And when I keep saying I can't afford, that's not taking care of myself either, right? Because I'm a positive person on the norm, but I'm a realist too, right? And a lot of people, you know, they're realist, but they don't have fun. And then some people are having fun and being frivolous, but they're not realists. They're not paying attention to what they really need, right? They're just thinking for the immediate moment, like I did with these glasses. I says, "Oh, I'll go to the optometrist shop at this store," right? Because I know I can get my glasses for almost half the price of what I usually pay. And I did, right? I did get a pair of glasses, but they weren't very good glasses, right? And I even said to the lady when I went back in to see if my prescription was still, I was still able to use my prescription. And she said it was over a year old. I says, "I can't believe I had these glasses for a year." I says, a few weeks after getting them, I says, they started peeling on me, and then they cracked, and I crazy glued them. I says, and I remember saying that, "Cindy, right? You get what you pay for." And that's true, right? So sometimes when we do these things for ourselves, we think like volume, right? Quantity, rather than looking at quality. And I was looking at the quantity of money that it was going to cost me. And I thought, oh, if I get this cheaper pair, I'll have more money to put towards my trip. I don't think any money went towards my trip. But that money, I just think I just blew it on other things, right? But it's about taking care of yourself, and I'm trying hard to do that, and I'm not doing it in a mean way. It's just that I want to be around. I want to make it to 114 years old. I think that would be absolutely just incredible. And we live in a world now, right? That's possibly uh, uh, potentially something that could happen. They did you hear about that gentleman who may have found they're in um, human trials now. The mice trials worked out wonderfully, and they may have found. I'm not getting anybody's hopes up here. Like, don't get dashed, but do your own research. But he has found the cure for pancreatic cancer, right? And he's done the test on mice. It worked out perfectly in mice. It was a system that it was a chain reaction between three chemicals in the body. And usually, when they do radiation or chemo and all that stuff, they target one gene, right? But it's actually three genes that are in a chain reaction. So one sends the signal off to another, the other one sends the signal off to the combatter, and the combatter runs and goes on to the attack, right? But when you just target the first one, then you have to just keep killing that same cell, right? But if you can send in the battle team, right? Send in the crew, then it becomes a team effort in that. And it's proven to work. They're going into human trials, and I suspect we could possibly find some answers pretty soon, because I think those trials won't just be in people who've just been newly diagnosed, but I think it will be the people that will be, right? It's a last ditch effort. It'll be something that needs to be tried more. And because they know that that there's a possibility, a strong possibility, that it's going to be a serious discovery. They were talking Nobel Peace Prize and stuff with this gentleman. I can't remember his name. He had a birthmark on his face. I remember that. I can't remember his name though. Famous biologist anyway. But we know when Mexico, because they don't have the same screenings when it comes to medical issues and stuff, that these procedures might make some headway in that country. So keep your ears open for what's going on with that, because that's going to be huge. That's going to be so incredibly huge. It's going to be one of the best discoveries that have ever happened, right? And I think so far, when you look back, there's been a couple of them, right? The cure for smallpox. There was diabetes, insulin, the discovery of insulin. Oh, what about polio too, right? Being able to cure polio. Like, that's pretty amazing. There are some diseases that are actually coming back. I think polio was one of them, that there have been cases of polio, but there's, right, but parents get to decide whether or not to vaccinate their children and stuff, right? So these are where these cases are popping up, and smallpox too has been showing up too. I Right, it's funny when I say I don't listen to the news, and right, and I don't delve into these topics, but somehow, if it comes across my path, and that's the way I look at things. If it comes across my path, I figure it was meant to come across my path, if for nothing else than for my own benefit of knowing what's going on in the world, right? Right? Yeah. I don't know what's been going on with Trump as of late. Let me have a sip of my coffee, you guys. Mm. That's good. I make a good cup of coffee. I might go back to the whitener and that. I'm not sure if my system has been doing well with the cream. I know I'm a little bit lactose intolerant when it comes to the cream, but it also keeps me pretty regular, and there are a lot of benefits, the probiotics and cream and stuff that it serves in other ways that are beneficial, and in that little bit of experimentation, and I'm not treating myself like a guinea pig, right? It's just a matter of switching things up a little bit, right? And trying new things. And it always serves me, right? Like I feel good, and I'm grateful for my good health. And I think at 64, at the very least, I should have sore feet or aching bones and stuff. The only thing I'm struggling with right now, and it's a lot better. My hand's straight again. Well, my baby finger's crooked. Both of my baby fingers are crooked. I've broken both of them. But I couldn't even, right, put my fingers straight for, oh my goodness, over a week. So it's my ring finger. I broke my ring finger again. So I'm going to assume that my bones are getting old, elderly. And again, I have to, right, just try little things to keep me well balanced, keep me healthy, make it so that, I do make it to 114, make it so that I can do some more back road exploration and spend some time outdoors, especially, right? It's official this year, 8 more months, you guys. I'm going to officially, right, retired, right? The pension coming in, and those money stresses, they're not going to be like they've always been when I've just said, I'll take this job and and off I go, right? Okay, let me come into the comments here from, oh, I forgot to say happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Yeah, even yesterday it was Valentine's Day, and everybody was wishing me happy Valentine's and everything. I thought that was so sweet, right? And then oh, maybe that was Friday. Yeah, Friday. And then I didn't think to offer up the same wish for everybody. But yeah, happy Valentine's Day. I hope everybody was loving on their partners, loving on them friends, right? More importantly, loving on yourself, right? Loving on yourself. But yeah, oh, Eugene, that was sweet. I know he's gone off. Was that Eugene that ran off to watch the? I'm just going to come back here for a second. Yeah, that was Eugene that he ran off to watch train train buff. Yeah. Watching Train Buff 47. I wonder if he knows about Nancy, if he's a friend of Nancy's. I always meant to ask him about that, but I guess I could ask Nancy too if he's a friend of hers, because if they're not, maybe he's somebody, or she's somebody that he should meet, right? To at least very say hi and see if maybe they can get along. They would have lots to talk about anyway, right? Coming down here. In Michigan, we don't have that. But when I lived in Texas, every year we had to have our vehicles inspected, and it had to pass too. Yeah, I've always been the queen of beaters, and I get it, having inspections on vehicles. Not necessarily. I mean, if somebody wants to drive a beater for themselves, fine. But when you're on the highway, you're not the only one on the highway. So you have to take a look and take into account, excuse me, the other people on the roads, right? And so I had my first vehicle when I moved to Manitoba was a 1977 Toyota Celica. It was a little sports car. It was teeny weeny weeny. It was so small. If I saw it driving on the road right now, I probably think it was probably the coolest vehicle I ever saw. It was like a little teeny weeny, half the size of a little Porsche, right? And it was so adorable. And I remember I drove the heck out of that for probably must have been 5 or 6 years, more than that. But I sold that vehicle a couple of times. And by the last time, by the end, when I had that vehicle, when I drive down the highway, the side panels, because of the wind and how fast you're going on the highway, they would come right up like wings on a plane. It was so funny. We would all laugh about it. We thought it was hilarious, but we knew that if the police saw us driving down the highway, we get stopped, right? Because it wasn't safe. And at the same time, even though it was a small vehicle, we don't always stay within the lines. And those things would have just cut right through another vehicle, and no ifs, ands, or buts. And I remember that I actually drove it to the wreckers, and we walked around the wreckers looking for another vehicle to buy at the wreckers because my car was on its last legs. I was filling up the tires every single day. I had to start the car by sticking my hand inside of the carburetor to get it started. It was in really, really rough shape. And I remembered I got this big old Hudson. It looked like a mafia car, like the big old bubble roof. And it was so blue, it was almost black. And it had great big chrome bumpers. And it was a really cool looking vehicle. And at that time, I had just joined a crew. We just got this great big huge crew together, and we just packed that car, and we go to the beach. And oh my goodness, that car lasted us for about a year, until around the end of that year we were doing the same thing. We were switching out parts and everything and trying to keep that car going. And then I said, that's the last car. The next car I get, it's going to be brand new. And I remember my first new car. It was the Chevy Tracker. I don't know if you guys remember that one. They don't make it anymore. I think though that one ended about 2012. They stopped making the Chevy Tracker. But that car was so easy on gas. Oh my goodness. I fill that tank up and I could just go for like a month in that vehicle. And we'd take that car to the beach all the time. And oh my goodness, it was absolutely just beautiful to drive, to have a new vehicle. And then that car, I went and took it in for a repair, and it put it up in the hoist, and they told me that the frame was cracked on it and it wasn't safe to drive, that I could probably have it welded, but it'd probably be cheaper just to get rid of the vehicle. And so I bought a Chevy Tracker, right? And I bought the Chevy Tracker because it was the reboot of the Chevy Trax. Oh no, I bought the Chevy Trax because it was the reboot of the Chevy Tracker, and I loved my Tracker, right? So I bought this really cute Chevy Trax, and it was in a butterscotch color, and I just absolutely loved that. And I only drove that vehicle, oh my goodness, maybe 6 months, and I was stopped at a stop sign, and it was like in a four car intersection, and a big pickup truck lost control and wiped into another Chevy truck. I don't know if it was Chevy, but another pickup truck. And then that pickup truck did a great big spin in the road. And then I tried to back my car up, but there was another car behind me. And it would happen so quick that his tail end just kind of wiped my front end right off my car. And I went, oh my goodness, I need a new bumper. I'm thinking to myself, right? And then the tow trucks and the police came and everything. And I went, oh my goodness, like look at my bumper. I'm gonna need to put a new bumper on. The guy says, no, you're gonna need more than a bumper on that. And he towed my car away. and he wrote it off, right? They wrote my car off. I think I got like, I had new car insurance on that vehicle, and I think I got like, I don't know, 20,000 or something for the car. And then within the week, I was driving my Outlander. And if you guys have watched my old Urban Explorer videos, it was the big silver one. And I loved the Outlander. If you're looking for a good vehicle, that Mitsubishi Outlander, what a great vehicle. I would be so happy if I could have another one of those cars. And that one I was able to set up like an RV because it was a seven-seater vehicle, but it was also long. When you put the back seats down, it was like at least 6 feet of length in the back of the vehicle, and so much space back there that I was able to put my couch cushions back there and set it up like a little RV. And I loved it. I think my first couple of trips to Ontario, I actually took that vehicle. But then that vehicle, my sister took it away from me when I went to Toronto. I went to a trip to Toronto without telling anybody, right? But I knew if I told anybody I was going on that trip, it would have gotten back to her, and she wouldn't have been happy with that. And that was the risk that I was willing to take because I was determined that I was going to go to Ontario. And sure enough, when I got back, right, she says, take that, because she had it in her name. She took the loan out in her name. And even though the papers were all in my name, like legally it was mine, that's my sister, right? And so I just signed the papers back over to her, and her husband picked up my vehicle, and then she sold it to my nephew, and then he totaled it. He only had the vehicle for like 2 weeks, and he totaled it. It was devastating to me, that whole scenario. It was, but I never blamed her for it. I felt terrible, like right? It was like chopping my life off at my knees, right? Because I couldn't do my back road explorers. I couldn't go urban exploring. I couldn't do my Ontario trips, I thought. But in that adapt and conquer, and because life works its way out the way it's supposed to work out, that I had that time to really delve in to my past, to my upbringing, to where I got it right, to where I got it wrong, and to be able to advance myself in a way, right, that I got to be a smarty pants. And I recognize, like, I don't need to have my own vehicle, right? For the moment, we can work towards that. But in the moment, I'm going to take my trips anyway because I'm doing that for myself. And I just got into the habit of renting luxury vehicles. Oh my goodness, did I rent some really nice vehicles for my trip? And the last trip was a nice vehicle too, but it was really, really tiny. I had my little sister's Volkswagen, right? But it was a brand new vehicle, and it was really easy on gas. And last year, for the entire trip that I took in those 4 provincial parks, but they were pretty great distance away. I didn't do as much back road exploring and right out in the boonies and stuff. I was just going from one provincial park to the next and pretty much staying on the highway. But you guys, I only spent $150 on gas for my entire trip. It was such a budget trip. It was absolutely amazing. So I'm thinking, right, we're all geared up with my new tent. We're not going to be sleeping in the car this year, and I don't have to worry about the poles breaking and stuff in my new tent, because it's just like you pull it in a bag and you it just pops up into shape. It's a real cool little tent, right? I think it's the innovative pop-up tent. Like my tent was a pop-up tent too, but after a while the bars rusted out and turned around and right kind of got messed. Well, you guys saw who watched that first campground when I was taking everything apart. It was an absolute disaster. I felt miserable. I thought my trip was absolutely ruined. And last trip, I was telling Tammy the other day that, last year's trip was my best trip yet of all my trips, all of my camp outings and back road explores. It was the best one yet. And I suspect that even though I'm going to be doing 8 parks this year, I think 9 actually, because I'm doing one night in Thunder Bay, in a little park that's pretty, like, it's like a half an hour or an hour from the city. And that way, when I leave that park in the morning, I'll just stay there one night. I'll go to the grocery store, pick up my supplies for the next week, right? And I'll fill up the gas tank, get all the stuff that I need to get done. And then I'm going to spend the all day at the amethyst mine, because last year I didn't go to dig for amethyst last year. So this year I'm going to go and stop off, and I'm going to spend the whole afternoon there. And because I'm only 40 minutes away, so I'm not, for 3 days, I'm not going to get very far, right? I'm going to be within an hour, right? So I'm going to stay in one park, and then the next park's only going to be like an hour away. But it's only like 40 minutes away from where I'm digging amethyst. And because I didn't spend a lot of time there the last time that I was there, I thought this time that we could really spend some time. I'll book the spot for a couple of days, and we'll spend some really nice time, because it was a beautiful park. But for me, it was just kind of a stopover, so that I could go digging for crystals, right? Not like I need more crystals. I was actually telling Tammy also, when she was commenting on Lake Superior video, that I have a big grocery bag full of rocks that I took from Lake Superior, and they have to go back, right? They're just sitting in my walk-in closet, right? And right, I'd much rather that they go home. So I'll just load them up when I go on my trip this year, and I'll take them back to Lake Superior, right? And I'll make up for it at the amethyst mine, right? Because I always pick up this one. Like I said, I didn't go last year to dig for amethyst, but this is the one that I got. Look at that, you guys. Look at all that amethyst. Look how sparkly that is in there. And that's my centerpiece for my fireplace here. And I always keep my little monkey man there, because you guys know that I love, right, evolution. And I thought, oh, that's a cool one, right? I'll actually turn it this way so that, when it's sunny in here and everything, all the crystals sparkle on it. I just love this crystal. Yeah. The other one I sold, I usually make a point of buying a big one every year, but I don't want to have like these big rocks all over the place, right? So I sold one of them. I got a good price for it too. I think I only paid $40 for it, but it was worth about $150. Like, if you had bought it in a shop, it would have cost you $150 or $200. So I just sold it for $60, and I was happy for the $60, because I know when I'm on the road permanently, and there'll come a time when I'll be on the road permanently, I won't be able to take any of this stuff. So I'm really happy to be thinning it out. I haven't done any listing lately, because I'm trying to hold on to the things that I love for a little bit longer. But what if that happens tomorrow or next week or next year even? What am I going to do with all this stuff? I just don't. It'll be a fantastic yard sale or garage sale if I should have to get rid of it, because I can't take any of it with me, right? I'll be taking my couch cushions and my Rubbermaid containers and my survival stuff and some clothes, and that's it. I'll be done, and I will be on the road. I'll be living in provincial parks. And right? My pension will be enough that I could live in provincial parks for the rest of my life, right? Wouldn't that be cool? I don't know how many people do that, but I'm kind of assuming that they do. They probably, right, have RVs and trailers and stuff, but I'm sure there are people out there who do enjoy just switching out provincial parks every month. I think you can stay in each park for 21 days, and actually you can stay in the provincial park as long as you want, but you can only have that camp spot for 21 days, and then you would have to move to a different camp spot. So that's what I'd like to be doing, I think. And then again, I get good at that, and I'll have the Starlink, because you can actually have the Starlink, which is Elon Musk's internet, and you can get the equipment attached to your vehicle while it's removable, and then you attach it when you want to go live, or you need to get on the internet and do um, research and stuff. And that's how wonderful, right, innovation is. If I got a piece of unorganized land, crown land that's not covered with different bylaws for renovations or home building and stuff, that if you want to, you could be in a trailer, or I could live in my SUV if I want to. If I want, I could build a little log house, right? I've been looking at watching videos on how to build a log home, but I think I wouldn't build a log home. Well, technically the roof would be log home, but it would be a dugout home, right? For me, I would think I would dig out like 5 feet into the ground in a big square. Then I would line it with rocks, right? Because that would help to insulate in the winter time too. And it would be easier to build a fireplace, because I've been looking at how to build stoves and fireplaces and stuff like that too. So that would be interesting. Okay, let's come into the comments here and see what's going on. Earl's in here too. Hello, Earl. I'm sorry I didn't see you come in. Uh, can't fight what off? You got a cold? Is that what it is? Life gets hard when women chase me all the time. Oh, right. I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there who would not find that to be something that would be difficult to handle. But awesome. Oh, William's here too. Oh my goodness. Hi, William. How's William been doing? Oh my goodness. I haven't seen William in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I thought Earl was actually talking about a cold, that he couldn't fight the cold off. Earl says, help me, help me. I will send you positive thoughts and vibes your way to handle those ladies, Earl. Oh my goodness. I don't think that's a lot of things that people would be complaining about, is fighting off the girls, right? Hmm. But yeah, that's nice to see you guys come in, and I haven't seen William or heard from William for a little while. I actually saw on Facebook Marketplace there was what do you call the something of the universe, those figurines that you like to collect. What are they called? Masters of the Universe, right? And it was kind of like a rubbery doll. It wasn't like joined or anything, but it was made of rubber, and you could actually like pull the arms and stuff on them. Yeah, it was a green one, I think. It was something with green, and then he had like a white helmet or something on his head. Oh, he was joking. He was joking about that. Oh my goodness. sometimes it's better. I was actually having that conversation with my sister yesterday, Earl, and she's a little bit more social than I am. And I used to be very, very social, but I've been enjoying my time on my own. It's a whole lot stressless, right? There's not as much stress, and you're not dealing with as much of other people's issues, even though, right, it still finds me. I still get these knocks on the door and everything, right? But yeah, I don't mind. I think, I don't believe that possibly that I was meant to stay with anybody for very long. But, it'd been a different story, because if you'd asked me when I was married, I would have thought for sure it was forever, right? That I thought that I was going to be married forever. And it didn't work out. And yes, it was hard coming out of that. But I never gave up hope that, that I would meet somebody. In fact, I don't think I gave it much thought either way at all, right? If it happened, it happened. If it didn't, that would be okay, right? It was kind of that idea. I had my day in the sun, right? That I had some really, really beautiful, loving relationships in my life. And lots of people, they haven't had one, right? And I've had a few in my life, and so grateful to have those experiences, because it would have been a sad thing for me to realize that I had lived my whole life and nobody truly cared about me. Being a highly sensitive, being empathic, right? When somebody really cares for you. And yeah, I've had those gifts in my life, but I don't feel like I'm not going to be that person, rocking in my rocking chair saying, "Oh my goodness, I never got to have that amazing relationship." Right? I did get to have those relationships, those amazing relationships. They just didn't last forever, right? And that's the thing, that I have good memories, and I keep good memories in each one of those relationships in my life, whether it's with, right, the boyfriends, my husband, whether it's with my sisters, whether it's just people that are close to my heart, right? When you guys heard me, I said, "Oh my goodness, Andrew's not here tonight. I'm gonna have to send him an email after work or after my live show and find out what's going on with him." So it's not a matter of, being in love all the time, right? But actually caring for other people. Like, you guys care for me. You guys keep coming in here and hanging out with me every Sunday, and you've been doing it for like 10 years, right? And that kind of caring is would never be anything that I would not think significant. And if I was rocking in my rocking chair at 80, 90, 100 years old, those would be beautiful relationships that I could reminisce over, right? And not feel that I was left out, or I was missing anything, or that I had anything to regret in any way. Yeah. Um, I believe in marriages. I believe in couplehood. I think for nothing else, it's for the kids, right? Um, uh, it's so important that the children have people that they can look up to and emulate and admire, and then want to pass those, right? That evidence that they got to experience in the relationship of their parents. And yes, you can do that without getting married, right? But the statute of marriage means something. It really does. And I have to appreciate that, and I do believe that, even though as a child, if you had asked me that, I would have said, right? There was no way that my parents should have been together, right? That was crazy town. But that was their crazy town. But the hard part of that was the kids got hurt by it, right? The kids had to experience that volatility, and you know, each one of us in as my sisters, me and my sisters, we didn't have those examples of loving relationships. So those loving relationships took a lot of effort, a lot of work, right? And it was a lot of giving, right? And in those relationships. But they did, and it didn't stop us from having those painful breakups. But even in that, there are lessons, aren't they? And, a couple of my sisters, right? Carolyn and Alice, they both have amazing relationships right now, you know, and like I said, sometimes it's just not in being in love, but just loving, right? Just caring, right? For somebody else, and not just for your own benefit, but the person you care about too, right? Yeah. Oh, somebody got zapped there. Oh, oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that, Earl. Oh my goodness. Uh Earl says Tammy's been married twice. Divorced, unfortunately, and then I remarried, and my second husband passed away suddenly on Valentine's morning. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So it was a difficult day for you, and you didn't even say anything to me, Tammy, and you were with me on Friday night too. I wish you had said something. Oh my goodness. Right? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dear. Um yeah, my marriage fell apart on my birthday. Yeah, so that was my birthday present, right? That was my birthday present by ending my marriage. But being highly sensitive and being empathic, that's how the world, right, divvies out their lessons on those days that we'll never ever forget. I'll never forget my mother because she passed away on 11/11, like on November 11th, which happens to be Remembrance Day here in Canada. So on Remembrance Day, I get the pleasure of remembering my mother. And for my sisters, that's a beautiful day to remember. All right. They go visit the grave and stuff. But for me, right, there are some things in our life that we'd rather not remember. And, it's sad to say, but, I would have preferred that maybe the day after Remembrance Day she had passed away so that it doesn't impact me, because it does impact me, because my whole day is wrapped in the memory of my mother and in my life experiences with my mother. And it wasn't all bad, right? And I don't want anybody to get that idea that it was all just terrible. Lots of times it was bearable. But right, it was something that I wasn't proud of for myself, because I missed out on having that relationship with my mother that my sisters always had, and I never did, right? I never, from the day I was born, I never had that relationship with my mother. And it's funny that I said, to Earl that, I believe in marriage. I believe in two parents staying together and making it work. But you have to care about each other. That's the thing. You really have to love on each other, and you have to be that example for the kids. Oh my goodness. I made it. I hate to say it like that because I came in today and I just was kind of blank from my blank from my day. I didn't do anything interesting this week. Talked a little bit about the weather and just enjoyed everybody's company actually tonight, right? And it was beneficial, right? It was very beneficial for me, you guys. William says, what everybody doing this evening? I was asking about how you were doing this week, William, because I hadn't seen you. Um, I agree, Cindy. I read a lot about Reddit family issue questions and have really seen how children have to bear the burden of what the grown-ups do, right? And it's not like just because the grown-ups love each other and support each other, that's going to be passed down to the kids, but at least the kids, right, can have that stability of having both parents, right? Than rather having, um, one parent, the mother, and that mother's teaching the son how to cook and how to garden and how to do the women things, right? But who's teaching that little boy how to piddle on cars, right? How to change a tire, right? Fix an engine or go fishing and camping and, right? All those, go to the baseball game. Even with my dad, he had four girls, right? He didn't have any boys, but he still managed to spend time with us in the things that he enjoyed, right? And I went to lots of hockey games, lots of football games, and even if I didn't enjoy the sports, I enjoyed spending that time with my dad. And that's the truth, but it would have been a different story, right? If I had a brother, because he would have done all those things with my brother and I would have missed out on all that time with my father. And but I know my dad would have taught him how to hunt and how to fish and how to fix cars, because my dad was the king of beaters. That's how I became the queen of beaters. My dad only had one new car in his life too. He always drove old beaters too. And I remember me and him, we went to Reno one time. He picked me up at school and said, Cindy, you want to go to Reno for a week? And of course I wanted to go to Reno, or for 3 days. We were only supposed to go for 3 days. And I jumped in the car and I ended up missing almost a month of school because we stayed in Reno for 3 weeks because my dad hit it really, really big. Every time he touched a machine, every time he played blackjack, right? He moved us from like this cheap little motel that we used to stay in all the time, because we used to go to Reno all the time. We'd drive down there. It was only 22 hours from Vancouver. And we'd drive down to Reno or Las Vegas. This time it was Reno. And he always stayed in this little cheap motel because it had a swimming pool. So him and mom could go gambling and we could just hang out by ourselves at the pool. And just came across my mind as I caught my sister at the bottom, my baby sister at the time. She was only 2 or 3 years old, and she was kind of not even floating. She was sunk right to the bottom of the pool. And I just happened to open my eyes and swimmed over, and I went, oh, there's my sister Carolyn. I swam down and grabbed her. And if I had it, she might have drowned, right? But right, we were kind of feral kids when we were kids, right? And what was the reason I was telling about? Oh, when my dad took me to Reno and he kept hitting it big. And so we moved into the most expensive hotel in Reno, which happened to be the Mapes Hotel. It's where they drove the 747 right onto the stage, and then all the dancing girls came out. I never saw the show, but it was a huge hotel. I remember our car spit out black smoke. It farted black smoke, and the guy came out and grabbed my dad's car and went and parked it for him. And we stayed in the hotel, but we stayed there for 3 weeks. Oh my goodness. Like I had room service and I went shopping and movies, and my dad was doing the casinos and stuff. And when we got home, uh, he had bought gifts for everybody, but it didn't make a difference. My mom was so angry that we were gone for so long. And then he went to the car lot, and he bought a brand new car with his winnings. Yeah, I remember that. He bought a brand new car with his winnings. He did something else. Oh, I think he bought a new boat, a new fishing boat or something. And yeah, it was his very first brand new car. And it was a nice car. It was a big Chrysler, but yeah, I remember that. My dad was the king of beaters and I was the queen of beaters, but it was sure a lovely experience when we got to have our first brand new cars, both of us. Okay. I hear the fire trucks happening. I'm going to call it a night tonight, and I'm going to wish them some good cheer that they get to their destination and it's a false alarm and they get to turn around and go right back to the station. You guys, that's it for tonight. Did I miss anything here? Um, You might still have done those guy things with your dad, Cindy. My father and I had nothing in common. I didn't go to games or play golf with him, and I wouldn't join his fraternity. Yeah, some parents are like that, right? You got to be grateful sometimes that you just got born, right? That you got to have that opportunity to be married a couple of times and be able to have some adventures in your life. I know it was probably not always early, but life is that mixed bag of good and bad. And, just as much as my relationship with my mother was difficult, right? My relationship with my father was amazing. I don't know what your relationship with your mother was like, Tammy. Hopefully one of those relationships with one of your parents. Again, it's a good reason why parents should stay together, right? That at the very least that the child does get some care somewhere, right? I don't know, maybe you were feral too, but I don't think so because you're a caregiver and I know, right, you cared for your family a lot. Okay, you guys, that's going to be it for me tonight. I'm going to call it a night, and I haven't really even watched anything online today or anything. I'm just kind of one of those days, one of those weeks, right? Nothing bad, but nothing great. But you know what? Sometimes no news is good news. Okay, you guys, have a great night. Aw, that's sweet of you to say, Earl. Oh my goodness. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week if I don't see you during the week, guys.